G'day, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another crazy dose of EV and net zero insanity with MGUY EV news for Friday the 25th of October 2024. Be sure to follow me on the usual socials for more content, links in the description, and please make sure you're subscribed and have enabled all notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you'd like to support this channel, why not buy me a coffee? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. Starting with some really terrible news. It was only less than 2 weeks ago that we heard of the horrible crash involving a Tesla in France in which 4 people lost their lives. And today we have a similar story in Toronto, Canada. Another Tesla had a crash with a concrete barrier, burst into flames, and 4 people lost their lives. 1 miraculously escaped. Here's the headline: horrific. 4 people dead after Tesla slams into pillar and catches fire on Lakeshore Boulevard in Toronto. 4 people are dead and another is in hospital after a Tesla driving through downtown Toronto at a high rate of speed crashed into a guardrail and struck a concrete pillar on Lakeshore Boulevard. It happened in the eastbound lanes of the busy road east of Cherry Street shortly before 12:15 a.m. The vehicle lost control, struck a guardrail and then struck a concrete pillar. Upon impact, the vehicle then caught fire, Duty Inspector Philip Sinclair told reporters Thursday morning. He confirmed that 3 men and a woman, all believed to be in their 20s and 30s, were pronounced dead at the scene. Another driver who was in the area at the time of the crash stopped and managed to pull one woman in her 20s from the burning car. She was transported to hospital with serious injuries, Toronto Paramedic Services said. However, she is expected to survive. There's a video also in this story. I'll let you watch that at the link in the description. Links to all these stories obviously in the description. But one of the things they say in that video, and it's a terrible, terrible thing, is that they had to once again break windows to get into the car, because the doors would not open. And so they had to spend quite a lot of time just hitting the windows with an iron bar, a steel bar, just to break it open to get the victims out. And while these things are terrible, it was a terrible crash anyway. Who knows what would have happened if it had been a regular car. But when you've got lithium-ion batteries going up in flames, and the intensity of that kind of fire to deal with, as well as all the other issues you're going to face with a crash like this, well, it doesn't take a genius to work out it's going to be way, way harder. Now, as well as my skepticism of the benefits of EVs, I'm also extremely skeptical of the benefits of full self-driving and autonomous vehicles. They seem like a solution looking for a problem, and they're completely untrustworthy, despite the assertions of the manufacturers that they are safer than human drivers. Absolutely, they are not. And here's a great article in the Telegraph, which just sums up my views entirely. Self-driving cars are just another Silicon Valley obsession that no one needs. Absolutely. The problem with robo-taxis isn't just their safety concerns, but whether there is a market for them in the first place. Another day, another hissy fit from Planet Musk, though for once it's not the world's most temperamental billionaire chucking his toys out of the pram. Instead, the tantrum comes from lower down the Tesla hierarchy. Maybe there's a course that company bosses go on where they learn to be as thin-skinned as their trailblazing boss. Mark Van Impe, Tesla's outgoing head of global vehicle automation, has quit with a stinging attack on European regulators for failing to approve the car maker's self-driving technology. In an outburst reminiscent of the giant strop thrown by Microsoft chief Brad Smith when the tech giant's attempt to buy Activision was blocked by British competition wonks, Van Impe made the ridiculous claim that a delay to the rules governing how the system would work in Britain and Europe impacts European competitiveness. It, of course, does nothing of the sort. On the contrary, it is a victory for common sense. As one reader of this newspaper quipped, Elon Musk's dreams are other people's nightmares. Yep, absolutely right. Couldn't agree more. Go and read the article at the link in the description. I've said on many occasions that self-driving is flawed. It might do very well in certain circumstances, but when it fails, it will fail more catastrophically. And this has been backed up by not just a bunch of tinfoil hat wearing nut jobs, but by a very respectable organisation called the Association for Computing Machinery. I'll leave a link in the description and also put a card up here to a video I've done about one of their papers, which casts considerable doubts on the abilities of self-driving and autonomous vehicles. Go and check that out as well. So despite governments pushing EVs as hard as they possibly can and threatening to ban internal combustion engines sooner rather than later, it's hybrids that are winning out in the battle because they actually are the best option. You don't have to faff around with the ridiculous nonsense of charging, and they actually provide environmental and economic benefits, efficiency, and they're convenient. They're just a small step from using a regular car, and you'll get benefits. Nobody wants the hassle of a pure battery EV, which is obvious from the sales figures, which are totally tanking. And this is what's happening. Hybrids top petrol power for the first time in EU new car sales, ACEA says. Hybrids overtook petrol-powered vehicles in EU new car sales for the first time in September, industry data showed on Tuesday, accounting for 32.8% of the total. Data from Europe's auto industry body showed. Total car sales in the bloc dropped by 6.1% year-on-year, falling for 2 months in a row for the first time since July 2022, the European Automobile Manufacturers Association, ACEA, said on Tuesday, as major markets Germany, France and Italy continued to stagnate. The sale of hybrid electric cars, HEV, has increased in the EU in recent months as buyers see them as an affordable compromise between all combustion and all electric. Absolutely. Fully electric BEV and plug-in hybrid car sales have instead slowed this year, in part due to diverging policies on green incentives among European countries, while regulators have imposed hefty tariffs to try to keep out cheap Chinese EVs. Yep. If you want to push people to have EVs, they won't buy them, but they might go for hybrids. But it's as always, why are we telling people what to buy? The market should decide, and the market's clearly deciding hybrids at the expense of battery EVs. So it'll be interesting to see what governments do about this. They'll probably double down and try and regulate hybrids out of existence so that people have to buy battery EVs. I wouldn't put it past them. And just another story here on other types of lithium-ion batteries from the Netherlands. More house fires due to batteries stay close while charging. The total number of house fires caused by an electric bicycle, scooter or scooter battery almost doubled last year. Accumulators and batteries were the cause of last year's 5% of the total number of house fires. In the previous year, this was still 3%. It is a development that cannot be completely stopped because more accumulators and batteries are used, not only for e-bikes or e-scooters, but also for phones, tablets and laptops and toys. Still, there are things you can do to prevent such a battery fire. And then there's a whole bunch of things you can do. Obviously, stay around, be present while the battery is charging. I mean, that's obvious. Have the battery checked. Don't use aftermarket cheap Chinese chargers, stuff like that. Insurance, that's an interesting one. According to Voerding, the battery fire is in principle insured through contents insurance. You file a claim, and if there is no question of extreme negligence, for example, payment is made, he says. You're expected to pay attention to what you're doing, but an accident can always happen. Well, the actuaries will be onto this because as the number of claims for these kind of fires go up, you can bet your bottom dollar that insurance premiums will go up as well. And it might come to a point where the insurance companies say, look, we can offer you this premium as long as you don't have an electric scooter, or excluding fires caused by electric scooters or things like that. I think, the small batteries in a laptop, I've never seen a good quality laptop battery catch fire just spontaneously. So they may just say, okay, well, we're excluding losses arising from for example, a scooter battery that's being charged indoors. We'll see. I mean, it's an evolving market. They have to protect their bottom line. Another great article in the Telegraph here about how forcing things on people doesn't go well People don't like being told what to do. It's a simple human facet of nature. You know, we don't like being told what to do, especially not what cars to drive. Elite Democrats tried to force electric cars on American drivers. Now the rebellion is growing. It's hard to believe such supposedly clever people have come up with such a dumb strategy. Are they clever? I don't think they are. A strong case can be made that the worst thing that ever happened to the electric vehicle industry was Joe Biden. His strong-arm tactics to force Americans to buy battery-operated cars have only stiffened consumer resolve not to purchase them. EV sales had been robust before Biden entered the White House, but the boomlet stalled as conservative voters rebelled and even ridiculed EVs as Biden cars or golf carts. While EVs have become popular in blue states like New York and California, where more than 1/3 of the sales have occurred, red staters have turned a thumbs down to these cars of the future. They're not cars of the future. That hasn't been the only setback. Deloitte's Global Automotive Consumer Study recently found consumer interest in traditional internal combustion engine vehicles is rebounding due to affordability concerns about $75,000 plug-in vehicles. Some 67% of consumers said they prefer an internal combustion engine for their next vehicle purchase, up from 58% last year. Just 6% prefer pure EVs, and 21% prefer hybrids. Back in March, the Environmental Protection Agency announced a new emissions rule only slightly less unachievable than its original pie-in-the-sky proposal, which mandated 67% battery electric vehicle sales by model year 2032. Well, that's still way less than the UK's mad target of 80% by 2030, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But Biden's base scenario is still that 56% of all model year 2032 vehicle sales must be non-hybrid EVs. Worse yet, Biden would just allow 64% of new vehicles sold in model year 2027 to be internal combustion only, and just 29% in model year 2032. It's 84% now. Yep, well, oh God, I sound like a crack record, but if you try and enforce this on people with top-down mandates, it ain't going to work. And I hate to say it, that's what's happening. And over in the UK, where they have that crazy 80% target by 2030, and they've actually got a 22% target this year in 2024, which they are going to miss. I think it's at 18 point something percent in the UK at the moment. They've got a long way to go to get that percentage up to 22 in just over 2 months. Good luck with that. And now politicians are starting to question whether this is actually the best idea. ZEV, Zero Emission Vehicle Mandate, dubbed political suicide in House of Lords debate on electric vehicles. The ZEV mandate has been labelled political suicide that puts manufacturing plants at serious risk of being closed in a lengthy House of Lords debate. The EV strategy debate saw the higher chamber pore over the findings of a recent report on the road to electrification from Parliament's Environment and Climate Change Committee. The full report, published back in February, took evidence from car dealers, suppliers, manufacturer bosses and trade chiefs. Among its conclusions, it found that the upfront costs of EVs remain a significant barrier to consumer adoption, and it called on the government to turbocharge the rollout of public charging points. That's not the answer. It also recommended the equalisation of VAT rates for domestic and public charging, adding that charging infrastructure must be reasonably priced, convenient and reliable. Among those to speak on the issue was Lord Woodley, a former trade union leader who previously worked for Vauxhall at its Ellesmere Port plant. He described the ZEV mandate as political suicide and said it puts sites like Ellesmere Port at risk of closure due to unsustainable pressure on manufacturers. And this is exactly what's happening in the UK, because a lot of manufacturers are saying, well, we're not going to sell cars in the UK, or we're going to cut significantly the numbers of cars that we're bringing into the UK because we cannot afford to pay a £15,000 fine if we exceed that 78% or whatever it is ICE target. And so therefore we're just going to cut down the number of cars we're making or bringing into the country. And yeah, that means a decline in the industry. It's absolutely catastrophic. But that's where we're headed. Oh dear, Hertz, the gift that keeps on giving. You can check my past videos for the story of this. This started way back in, I think at the end of 2023, when Hertz was forced to sell a whole bunch of Teslas that it had bought and cancelled a bunch of orders for other EVs because nobody wanted to hire the damn things. Well, what a surprise. And as this headline states, Hertz continues to suffer financially from bid to go electric as JP Morgan downgrades stock. The bad news continues as the rental giant tries to untangle itself from its failed electric vehicle strategy. Ryan Brinkman, automotive equity research analyst with JP Morgan, downgraded Hertz Global Holdings from neutral to underweight Monday. The assessment, seeking alpha reports, comes as the company tries to reverse course from its failed EV strategy, which has cost the company as much as $1 billion. The losses stem from the vehicle's high depreciation rates and high collision repair costs. The lack of spare parts for repairs is also undermining utilizations of the company's electric fleet. And people don't want them. You know, you'd have to actively choose to rent an EV. If you turned up at a Hertz desk at an airport and said you wanted to hire a car and they said, oh yeah, we've got an EV for you, you'd say, no way, I'll have a regular car, thanks very much. So you'd actually have to positively say, I want an EV for them even to be able to rent one to you. Who would want one otherwise? Hertz stock price was down Tuesday a little over 73%, oh my God, over the past year. The rental giant announced in 2021 it would buy 100,000 EVs from Tesla, only to find lackluster interest from renters, as well as high repair costs. Didn't they foresee that? Didn't they know that? In January, Hertz announced it was selling off 20,000 of the vehicles with prices as low as £25,000. Well, this is the worst decision probably in American corporate history, and it continues to have repercussions for Hertz. And finally, I seem to have annoyed an EV brainwashed evangelist YouTuber called Ben Sullins, who's done a whole video on me. I'm glad I'm living rent-free in his head, and he feels the need to do a 20-minute video on my channel. His whole playlist is just attacking other YouTubers who he doesn't agree with. I haven't watched it. I don't intend to watch it. I'm not going to put a link in the description. You can find it if you like. But it's just a little bit pathetic, really. Rather tragically, he also went to the trouble of mocking up an Elon Musk tweet about me and getting my handle wrong as well. I really wish Elon Musk would tweet about me because it would be great for my channel. Another one of the many thumbnails he did for this video was one that said that I am an oil puppet, which, I really wish I was. I wish I was in the pay of big oil because then I could retire. But unfortunately, I'm not. So anyway, there you go. This channel does not attack other YouTubers for their views. People are entitled to their views. You know, there are lots of people I disagree with on YouTube about the subject of EVs, but I'm not going to waste my time attacking them. But you know what the old saying is, if you're catching flack, you're over the target. Oh dear, that's it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. See you in the next one. Bye for now.